Warren guys, Budger and Wunya. You go now, Darkanyang Narua. I'm up in the Waddingon Mountains in Jillaby State Conservation Area, and I'm here again with a good mate of mine, Jerry. And today we want to sit here and discuss with you guys first aid kits first aid kits, be it for hiking, bushwalking, four-wheel driving, camping, whatever it might be. Just general basic first aid kits that we all should carry, be it in our cars or on a pack when we go for a hike. So I've got two different first aid kits. Both of them are basically the same. The little red one there lives in the car, and the orange one, you'll quite often see me when I'm doing a hiking trail or walking trail, I'll be wearing this one. This one is specifically for my hiking stuff. However, they both basically have the same equipment in them. Both of them do have these little cards on the sides that you can see here, and it's on both bags, so that if something happens and paramedics need to come out, they've got my details. On the car one, it's got mine, my wife's and my son's. It's got our details, next of kin or emergency contacts, any allergies, things like that. So I think that's quite a little handy thing. On the car one, again, I keep 3 for me, my wife and my son. On the hiking one, I just keep the single one. So I'll put this one away because, as I said, they're both basically the same. And I'll give you a look to start with in my little hiking one. I should just mention as well, Jerry, you're a registered nurse, aren't you?
No, I'm classed as an AIN assistant nurse.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trained in first aid, and my history back in Ireland, stroke, rehabilitation and acute care. So yeah.
So you've got a fair bit of experience when it comes to first aid and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. For the last 16 years, Mick, I've covered quite a few different nursing situations, and in my professional side, work side and so on. But yeah, safe to say, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Alrighty. So Jerry has a bit of a background in first aid. He's got a lot more of an idea than what I do personally. So yeah, he's going to have a little bit of a look through what I keep in my kit. And again, remember, basically the same in the car as well. I think there's 1 or 2 very minor differences in the car kit to what is in my general kit. So now these pouches here in particular, they look very similar to the survival first aid kits, but I'll tell you now they're not. Although a lot of the stuff that I have in here is based on what those survival kits do have. Reason I've purchased these ones over the survival ones do have the mole clips at the back, so they're easy to pop off and carry on the belt. These ones in particular from eBay allow you to undo that clip and actually remove the whole component there. So that way, for example, if it's on your belt or in the car or whatever, just undo that clip and take the whole thing off. You don't have to stuff around worrying about the molly clips. For me, I think that's a much better option, and it's very convenient.
It is. In the in the profession, Mick, it's actually known as a rapid response kit.
Yep.
The fact that you can tear it away and you're not fumbling with belts or buckles, so you just literally get that there and straight to where you need to apply it.
And in an emergency situation, the last thing you want to be doing is stuffing around trying to get things off belts or out of cars or whatever. The quicker you can get them out and get that first aid to yourself or to somebody else, the better it's going to be for everyone.
It's pretty much, guys, it's all about time. Time is the essence whenever you're dealing with the likes of first aid. It's called first response for a reason. And that first response is, you're the first responder to try and save or help save somebody's life. And it's all about time. Yeah, especially in the snake bite situation.
Yeah.
Here in Australia, obviously, we can very easily, no pun intended, but step upon that very easily.
And I think we've got something like 9 out of the 10 world's most deadly snakes here in Australia. Yeah. So, especially for those of us doing hikes and bushwalks and that, snake bite kit, first aid kit is vital. Even for those of us just coming out and camping, to be honest, I've almost stepped on a snake when out just trying to collect firewood. So first aid kits are absolutely vital, especially with the snake bite, and you've got to know how to use them, which is something I admit I'm still learning. So let's get into the kit. You've got your own kit here today too, don't you, Jerry?
I do, yeah. It's yeah. Well, we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
I'll show you that.
Yeah, so we'll go through my one first, and then we'll have a look at Jerry's and see what differs what we've got. Now, this is the first difference that you'll notice between the car kit at the moment and my hiking kit is the splint. I'll thank the guys from Survival, and at the Sydney 4-Wheel Drive and Adventure Show, they actually gave me this. So I'll thank them very much for that. I appreciate it. It's the one thing that I was missing from my kit that I needed to get. So the small splint, I'll put that out of my way. And then as you can see, it's not a very big pack, but there's a fair bit in here. So we'll start in the little zip pouch here, I think. Move this camera around so it might be able to see better. And move the beer out of my way. First thing is some safety pins for bandages or fixing clothing or whatever. Safety pins can come in really handy out in the bush.
Absolutely, you know they're the first aid Swiss Army knife, as it's known as.
It can be used for so much.
Multitude of uses.
Even for picking a splinter or something like that, just burn the end of them to sterilise them.
Very good, yeah.
And then you can use them to pick splinters and things like that as well. So in this little spot, I've got a roll of tape. I think I might actually have 2 of them.
Is that surgical tape, Mick? It looks like it.
It is a form of surgical tape.
Yeah.
It came from APAC when my wife was in hospital.
Yeah, it's surgical. That's
we
good.
We were given a whole heap of that because of my wife's injuries when she was in hospital.
Dressings, yeah.
We were given a whole heap of it, and it's just some of what's left over. Some cotton tips, some gloves. I've got a few splinter picks, some general medication. What have we got there? Some Panamax and some paracetamol pain relief.
Okay, can I just add? Sorry, Mick. Can I just add to the medication? A really good one also is to carry in your pack is anti-inflammatories.
Yep.
Because if you have a break or you have a bite or anything of that description, the first thing the body does, it goes into trauma. So trauma then basically inflames the wound area. So you want to try and you're not going to get it all done, but you're going to try and alleviate as much pressure and inflammation and swelling as possible. So it's good to carry a strip of anti-inflammatories, just ibuprofen or something.
Yep, I keep Celebrex in the car at all times for my back.
Perfect.
So might have to throw a strip of them in here as well.
Strip it.
And I've got a few wound wipes. They just come in the Trafalgar kits from Kmart, cheap ones. Face shield, again, if someone's choking or something like that. I'm not sure if they're the sort of things you use for CPR, are they?
It is
a CPR mask.
It's exactly what it is, yeah. So if you flick it round, you'll show that the guys on the back of it. You'll see how basically to use it. So there's no personal contact, and there's a few reasons we all know about for that. You know, disease,
hepatitis, and all that sort of thing.
And also the fact that if somebody, which isn't very pleasant, I know, but choking on vomit.
Yep.
At least that way you're safeguarding yourself. You're creating a barrier from you actually getting splashed or contaminated from that.
And that's completely understandable. So
for sure.
Last little thing, which is an added bonus that I've thrown in, some little sachets of sea salt. Reason I carry these is plain and simple, leeches. Drop one of these onto a leech and they'll let go pretty quick.
We had 2 leeches today on Mick's leg.
I did. They didn't make it to skin, but they were on my leg. Okay, quickly throw all this crap back in.
It's a good kit.
And I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, you've covered all the eventualities so far.
I think I've tried to cover as much as I can.
Yeah. So I can see what you've done here, Mick. You've sort of got, so this little pocket that we're in at the minute is for it's your ancillaries. It's your sort of lightweight sort of first aid. Yep. And then I can see
all the small things that are otherwise going to just fall out and go everywhere.
Yeah, and you know, I can see then as you move to the middle of the pouch, we get a wee bit more sort of heavy duty first aid.
Yeah.
So you've got, I like the way you've got actually 3 stages set up, which is very clever.
I just sort of thought larger items, smaller items, how it's going to fit. But yeah, anyway, thanks.
From a first aider and a clinical point of view, I'm looking at this one.
Yep.
I'm looking at, that's for your minors. I'm looking at this one. This one becomes more serious. You can go into that, and then your cleanup.
Yep. In the middle section of the kit here, I've got a couple of gauze bandages. I don't specifically know if there's much of a difference between this one to that one,
So,
if they're for a different purpose, but you'll know that.
so this one here isn't actually a bandage, Mick.
Okay,
It can be used as a bandage.
that's what it looks like to me.
Your description was correct. It is gauze.
Yep.
But not so much a bandage. So that's your normal bandage. That's your
Yep,
crepe.
that's the normal crepe bandage.
So pretty much if you have a wound, right, say on your arm, and you're bleeding, well, I'll cut a piece of that off,
Okay,
and I'll put that on, and then
put that over the top.
I'll dress it with this.
Fair enough.
You see how that works now?
Yep.
So that's your first dressing, and that's your second dressing.
So that will come largely into what's in this side too.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah. You can also make a triangular bandage out of that gauze.
Yep. I think there's actually triangle bandage in there.
Yeah.
Then I have some antiseptic powder, which I've found that in the past to be really good for grazes and burns and things like that. You put it on, it helps dry it up and heal it. The Panther, this was recommended to me when I got my first ever tattoo when I was about 18, and it's something I absolutely love. I have an issue on this hand where I get a lot of dry skin in between these two fingers, and where my wrist sits on the steering wheel, I get sort of like a callus there, and I find this helps to clear it up pretty well generally. And obviously it's an antiseptic, it is quite oil based, so I find it tends to keep moisture away if you're out somewhere where it's a bit damp, and
Absolutely.
that helps to keep the moisture away and just keeps the crap out. So,
And can I add to that as well? With the Panther, for a bush point of view, it's also very good for chafing. So if you're going on long hikes and it's a hot day and you're sweating, and no matter what you wear, you're never going to wick away all the sweat.
Yep.
Slap some of that on between the thighs or whatever, and I tell you what, it's a more comfortable journey. Yeah, no more chafing.
because it is that sort of oil base, so it would make things glide a lot easier.
It's actually it was designed by midwives
Okay.
to put on newborn babies and
Yep.
so on, because it was the old days where they used to use the terry towel and reusable nappies, and
Help to get
unfortunately,
rid of the nappy rash and that.
yeah, unfortunately, it didn't have the wick away properties that modern day pads and nappies do have. So therefore, the skin would have been in contact with the urine, which burns,
Yep.
which causes a lot of problems. So therefore, that creates a barrier. Well, it works the same way with sweat.
I have also found with the Panther, when I had my property maintenance business, I got stung by a wasp, and as soon as I put that on there, the sting was gone. There was absolutely no pain whatsoever from the wasp, and it just absolutely worked brilliant. So it's something that I always keep it at home, and I always keep it in both. It's in both my kits for that exact reason. Now the last thing, and this I think is a major thing for anybody, especially doing hikes or out here camping in the bush, and that is a snake bite bandage. Now you notice on this one, it does have the little rectangles. It's not the same as the survival ones, they are very similar, but this one here does have the rectangles that when you pull it to the tension, it needs to be, they become a square, then you know you've got the right tension on there, and that's a 10 metre bandage. Now the guys at Survival were telling me that these aren't quite as good as their ones. Whether that's correct or not, to be honest, I really don't know, but this is a 10 metre bandage. And the idea, I believe, when you are treating a bite, you start from just above the bite, you work all the way to the end of that limb, and then come back through. So whether it be your leg or your arm or wherever, start here, work all the way up, and then come back down. 10 metre bandage will do that, and it saves you carrying 2 or 3 to cover the same distance.
That's correct. That's a good rule. And the reason for the dressing of the bandage, it's a compression bandage as it's known as, and what it literally does, it says what it does on the tin, so to speak. It compresses the wound site and compresses the limb, so therefore it slows down the blood flow, so you do not walk around, you do not swing your arms around if you've been bitten and you have a dressing on.
Stay as still as possible.
You basically immobilize that limb or that area and stay, as Mick says, stay still as possible.
And I purchased this one in particular from Chemist Warehouse, and they were $9.99 each. So for a 10 metre bandage,
It's so cheap.
it's so cheap. It does, again, it has the markings on there, and it could
Really?
especially out here in the Australian bush, it could be the difference between life and death.
That's correct. For $9.99, you know what, guys? It's money well spent to save your life, isn't it? Really, it's a no-brainer.
In the last compartment of my kits, I have the typical, just a few standard band-aids. They look a bit ratty at times, but
as long as they work.
Yeah, as long as they're still sealed,
yeah,
I'm happy enough to use them. I've got a pair of tweezers for pulling splinters and things like that.
Ticks, leeches.
Yeah, don't generally use tweezers all that often. And when it comes to splinters and that, as I said, you can either use the pins or there are some splinter picks already in there. Few alcohol wipes. If I get bitten by a leech, it's the first thing I do once the leech is off. I'll clean the area with this. Put a bit of panthem on there.
Good approach.
Stops it getting crap in there. Kills any germs and disease that may be around there as well.
It also, the panthem will stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
So
and the alcohol will dry the blood up too.
Yeah. So it acts as a little band-aid on its own.
Small pair of scissors just to cut tape or bandages, things like that.
Cut your gauze with that and stuff.
A vital thing for your snake bites is to mark your location. So a small Sharpie.
So why is that, Mick? Why do you do that?
From my understanding, when it comes to marking the location, is so that when you do get to the hospital, they can cut through the bandage. They know exactly where the bite is. They can cut through it. They can take a swab and then they can test the venom in that area for what actual venom is there, so they know what to treat you with.
That is 100% correct.
And I think they say to put a time on there or something too.
Yeah, and if you can, it's just for you guys. You people are at home. You may be asking, well, why do you do that? Especially our international viewers. They don't deal with the likes of snakes and venomous, predators. So really, if you can, guys, and most of us, technology nowadays, we all carry a mobile phone.
Yep.
If you can get a photograph of what's just bitten you, and then show that to the medical team, they're going to go, oh, that was a brown, or that was a red belly black, or that was a black widow spider. They're going to know straight away then what they need.
Redback spider here.
Yeah, redback. Sorry. What did I say, black widow?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
They look basically identical.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're the same family.
Yeah, right. Very bulbous and ugly and yeah.
You don't want to get bitten by one.
No. So yeah, guys. So really, it's all about common sense too, and common knowledge. First aid is really the sensible, common approach to treating from the smallest of cut to the most life-threatening situation until you get that person or they get to you, the proper medical team, professional team. What you do could possibly keep somebody alive until the professionals actually get the chance to treat it.
Yeah, exactly.
So this all makes common sense, and it's essential equipment you need in the bush.
And that's where things like a basic first aid course where you learn CPR and snake bites and things like that, I believe TAFE does quite a few of them that are only a day or 2 day courses, and they're all free. So to go and do a quick first aid course, I'm sure even if you said to your boss, look, can I take the day off to do first aid, you'll have somebody else on site now qualified to be able to do it for you. I'm sure they'd be happy to give you the day off for it, and who knows, they might even turn around and go, you know what, you're benefiting the business, I'll still pay you for it.
For sure. You can become,
if they're a decent boss.
Yeah, you can actually become a first aid officer in your place of employment. I'm in a good, lucky situation where pretty much I do my basic first aid and then do my advanced first aid. And constant in-house training in my job, my career. So I'm constantly refreshing stuff like that, which is really good, and I'm lucky it doesn't cost me money.
And I have to say, when it comes to the snake bite, for example, from my understanding and what I've been hearing quite a lot as I'm looking into it, is that it regularly changes. I hear a lot of people say that it's gone from starting below the bandage and just coming up to the knee or to the elbow, to now doing the whole wrist, and then trying to do a double run over them, starting on top of the wound rather than below it when you start wrapping, things like that. So to actually have an up-to-date and do a relatively new course, you know that your methods are going to be up-to-date and the best possible practice.
That's for sure, and it's like CPR. Not get into that too much, that's very deep, but It's constantly changing.
I have noticed in a lot of the CPR things you get in that. I remember when I was a kid, it was Doctor CPR. No, sorry, Doctor ABC is
That's right.
danger, response, airway, breathing,
Very
and
good.
circulation.
Very good.
Now I notice they've thrown all these other different letters on there, such as
A, B, C, and D. You've got a D in there as well. And
yeah,
stuff.
and
You know,
there's
the D is a defibrillator.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
then there was another one I saw recently that was about contacting, going for help, contact and help,
Yeah.
calling
And
paramedics or something.
making a safe environment and so on.
Yeah,
You know, it's all refreshed, and it's refreshed for a reason, because people learn from this.
Yep.
The professionals learn from this, and they adjust accordingly.
exactly.
And that's why it keeps refreshing. You can never know too much.
Alrighty, into the last little section of my kit, or possibly last two. Do I have anything in that back section? Yes, I do.
Secret compartment, guys.
Saline water, sterile water to help rinse off a wound site, things like that. By all means, you could take water from the little dam behind us, but you don't know how sterile or how clean and safe that's going to be. You could very possibly introduce foreign bacteria that will make things worse. So some saline water. Then I picked up these little strips, little steri strips.
Fantastic for closing wounds, guys.
That's why I was told to get them, because if you get a decent cut, they're a lot like a stitch, that you can actually bring that wound right together and close it right up like you would a stitch.
That's correct.
So I've got a
Very
bunch of them in there.
good. Worth their weight in gold, those steri strips.
Then I've got some non-stick wound pads, which would be much like
Pretty much. Only
Like that
difference.
bandage?
The difference is they have a coating on the
Yep.
back, so it's not constant, totally fabric like that.
yeah.
It's
They've
got
got a little bit of a plastic coating on them.
which is the reason for that coating is, well, if you're bleeding heavy,
Yep.
you don't want to soak it through,
Yeah.
so that blocks it from soaking through.
Soft compress, which again probably be very similar. A rather large band-aid, a gauze swab, and then another large band-aid. So that's my kit. When you guys see me doing a bushwalk and you see this hanging off the back of me, you might think I look like an idiot. But I've got all this gear for myself and anybody else that I might come across that needs that assistance. And I am very soon looking into doing the first aid course, so I know exactly how to use all of this stuff and use it properly.
One thing I will say, and we spoke off camera yesterday evening about this, I noticed there's one very, very simple piece of equipment that's missing. And you might think, but really, why? How will that really hinder you or fix you up? But it's called a compound dressing. If you get blisters when you're out bushwalking and your heels are starting to bleed and the skin's off them, that's really, really uncomfortable.
It is.
Well, it's very easy remedied with what they call a compound dressing. So I've advised Mick to maybe look into that and
Yeah.
store some in the kit. And they can be used for a multitude of uses.
At least in this kit for when I'm doing the walks. It's definitely something that I'll be looking into for that.
For sure.
Alrighty, now we got your kit, mate.
Yeah, so let's have a look. So my kit's a wee bit different. So this is, I guess you call it like a bum bag or something.
Yep.
I just basically throw it over my shoulder, or if I'm out with my full walking pack, hiking pack, pretty much what I do is I basically strap it to my straps on my pack and I carry it here. So everything's accessible, maybe not as high, just about there.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is I adapt my kit differently to Mick. I'm lucky to be in the position where I have quite a lot of different adaptive uses for different kits. Just saying earlier to Mick, with me today, I have 3 first aid kits. I have one in this. It's a walking sort of day stroke overnight first aid kit. I also have one in my car, which is for on road, and I have another walking pack in the back of my vehicle that carries slightly more advanced kit than what I'm going to show you now, but I'm going to give you the fundamentals. So let me have a look.
The one thing I have been told to get for my kit, which I can't seem to find, is trauma shears.
Yeah, you don't really as such need them as, you know, you can get away without them.
Yeah.
To be
I've,
very
I've
honest.
always got the knife on me and things like that, which
Yeah.
maybe not as safe and as easy,
Yeah.
but there's always something there.
Yeah.
I do have those small scissors and that, so
Yeah.
there's always something there to cut
Yeah.
material or whatever if I need to.
Trauma scissors. Trauma scissors. They're good, but a good sharp pair of scissors will do the same job.
Or a good sharp knife. You just got to be careful you don't cut the patient.
For sure. So guys, there's a bit of everything in here. I'm gonna walk you through it. I'm not gonna go as in depth because Mick is pretty much showing you pretty much what to carry. This kit is similar, but not as advanced. But I'll give you an idea anyway. So this is more not just a dedicated first aid kit. It's a survival. It's enough to survive trauma, and it's enough to survive in the bush in a situation of near fatal emergency, where you need evac if you've been bitten and you need to get out of there quick. I'm going to show you how to do that, the equipment you need to do that, because obviously you're immobilized. You cannot travel if you get a bad break, or you've been bitten by a venomous spider or snake. Again, it's all about time management. You got to get out of there quick, and the only way you're going to get out of there is you can't walk out of there.
Yep.
You can't walk on a badly broken leg. You cannot walk if you've been bitten by a venomous snake, because you're going to pretty much contaminate your blood system with the venom,
Yep.
which it will start pumping, and you're going to die. The realistic possibilities are you're going to die. You may not, but you've a hell of a chance of dying. Anyway, triangular bandage, multitude of options and uses. Used for the obvious, pretty much arm sling. It can also be used for a head bandage. It can also be used as a thigh bandage. It can also be used to create a tie together in the case of a snake bite. Say you've been bitten on the leg, well, to close the two legs together and keep them together, well, you wrap the triangular bandage round and you go up again with another one, or whatever you can get your hands on. But that's pretty much what you'd use. Snake bite bandages, mine are slightly different than Mick's. Same idea, but
A lot smaller.
yeah, a lot smaller, and two individuals.
Yep. How many metres are they each? Are they about 2 metres each, are they?
Sure,
or?
actually. Doesn't really say. It was in yards.
There we go, yeah. 10 centimetres by 4.5 metres.
Yeah. Heavyweight, premium quality, non-sterile, snake bite bandage with indicator.
And they look to be exactly the same material and design as what my ones do.
Yeah. So anyway, excuse me, an emergency blanket is an essential piece of kit in the bush. You're stranded overnight. You get lost. You have an injury. You got to stay out there. You've got a day pack on you. You have no sleep system, no shelter. That's your survival. There's your shelter. There's your bag. It's foiled for a reason, to retain heat, to bounce the heat back in instead of letting it disappear in the atmosphere. Yep. Essential.
And you guys will actually notice in some of my more recent walking videos that I've actually got a green pouch now, an army green pouch on my belt as well. And that's the sort of stuff that I'm now keeping in there. I'm not going into that today, but that's the sort of stuff I'm keeping in there so that if I am out in the bush and I get stranded overnight or something like that, I've got some sort of shelter, I've got a way to make a fire, keep myself warm, and things like that. And along with the first aid kit, I'm pretty well going to be right there for a night or two out in the bush.
Absolutely.
And that also includes things like a compass and fire starters and stuff like that as well, to try and signal for help.
So guys, I'm just going to quickly show you through my kit. So it's nothing, as they say, very technical. It's not as advanced as what Mick has. His covers a lot of situations. This one, not as much, but it's enough for me. So Light Clear. Light Clear is, believe it or not, a scabies cream. Now you go, what the hell? Why have you got scabies cream? It's not only a scabies cream. It's also a cream if you get a tick bite, a leech bite, any ant bite, anything like that. Slap that on. Its properties, sort of infection reducing properties are major. Very good stuff. Another one. This is called Solo Sight. The Solo Sight is predominantly used for burns. And believe me, you get a lot of burns in the bush. You get sunburn, you get campfire burn, all that sort of stuff. Anything that's irritated the skin through heat, again, you can put it on your skin direct if you're chafing. Perfect. So, I'm going to briefly show you this kit. My trusty bag. So, these are spare batteries, by the way. I'll show you why I carry them in a second. Earplugs.
I've actually seen people using AA batteries and aluminium foil to start fires too.
Yeah, and I was going to...
It shorts out and
Yeah.
you can use it in a tinder bundle and that to actually create a spark and start a fire.
Yeah. And there's two reasons why I carry earplugs. One for the obvious, to cut the noise down if you're in noisy
You don't want to hear the person next to you snoring.
Yeah, pretty bad guys, I know. And the other one is, believe it or not, a fire starter.
Okay,
They
never
are-
knew that one.
They are amazing flammable.
Oh,
They are so flammable.
never knew that
There
one.
you go. So there's two reasons for that. I have 3M tape, dressing tape. It's a bit like your Band-Aid tape, like the actual padding. Very good stuff. And then of course, you've got the proverbial Band-Aids. Pretty much all the same size. Very important thing. Iodine, or iodine, depends where you come from. That pretty much is your decontaminant in the bush. You cut a little, it's basically,
Sterilise your water and everything.
yeah, so it's basically a dressing that is impregnated with iodine, and if your dressing's that size, something wrong with you. If your wound's that size, something wrong with you. You shouldn't even think about that. You should,
You need
Call for
to be
emergency.
hitting that yellow thing that you can see on the table.
yeah, you need to be hitting that. I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, you cut a little piece of that off, put it on your wound, if it's a bite or whatever it is, or a scratch, and then just put a Band-Aid over it, or a bit of dressing, or a bit of that tape. Really, really important stuff to have.
Again, I've heard people using that, I believe, to actually sterilise water. So if you're
Yep.
in a survival situation, need water out of the little dam behind us here, put some of that in there to help sterilise and kill any bacteria in that in the water, and make it safe to drink.
Exactly, it's very good stuff. Melanin, that's another dressing. It's pretty much the same as Mick's gauze dressing, the roll he had, but these are already pre-cut squares. I touched on about the whole Compete, about the blisters and the heels and stuff. Well, this is something very similar, okay? It's called a Mayplex Border Light. Now, these dressings are waterproof. You could slap it on your heel, put your sock back on, there's enough padding in it. You could put a piece of the iodine underneath it, put it on your wound. Multitude of uses as well. That's like the little waterproof dressing that Mick showed you earlier. Got a crep bandage. So if I do come across a snake bite or get bitten myself, then I have what I showed you earlier. I have the triangular, which I'm going to tie the two legs together with lower, and I also have this crep that I can tie up higher. So I've got two ties, pointed ties. So that's going to immobilize me.
And that's another thing, part of the reason I keep the crep bandage in mind, is when you want to sterilise that limb, like after being bitten by something, a snake or a spider or something, you need to immobilise that limb. So even once you've put the bandage on, you might still be able to move your knee. You can use that bandage then to actually make a splint with a stick or the splint that I've got there to immobilise it and stop it being able to move. And then that will slow the blood flow through that leg even further and therefore slow the venom getting into the rest of your body.
For sure. So this here is another one of those dressings. It's another Mayplex, only a bigger dressing. So the one I showed you earlier, yeah, a bit of a difference in size. It covers different eventualities. And then Melanite, again, that's like, you know, the pads that Mick was showing you. Waterproofed on one side to stop bodily fluids leaking through. This one is gauze, just little gauze squares, like Mick's roller gauze. Again, another Melanite. Smaller gauze, and this one here is pretty much a smaller version of the iodine. It's called a jello net. Now the difference with this is, this pretty much is like a gauze, but it's impregnated with the iodine. So it's just a slight difference in the square pad. This one actually, you can stretch it over the wound, and it'll, with the amount of iodine in it, and it's like a gel property, it will actually cling to the wound. Okay. And it also pulls the wound together. So that's quite a good one to have. Again, more gauze. And then you can't go far without, you know, the old Q-tips, you know.
And even the Q-tips at the end of the day too, you pull the cotton off the end of them, strike them with your fire lighter.
Is your fire starter right there?
And a fire and water are the two most important things in general for survival in the bush.
Yeah,
the two most important things that you need.
For sure. So I carry a bandana. Multitude of uses, guys. Don't need to go into it.
I've started carrying one of them myself, actually.
Wash your face down, clean your wound. Use it as a proper bandana on your head to keep the sun off you. Goes on and on.
Cover your face, dress wounds, whatever it might be.
Now, essential piece of equipment in the bush. Old school.
Something a lot of people probably don't have.
Yeah, it's a compass.
Actually, wouldn't mind a little one like that.
Yeah, it actually illuminates at night as well.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little one. So, compass.
I do have one in that kit of mine.
Yeah.
Just not that good looking.
And I need to see where I'm going in darkness or what's around me. I got a torch.
Hence the batteries.
Yeah. So yes, that's. Thank you. Forgot about them. So I got spare batteries for all these as well, and also a head torch. Now you're probably wondering, why is he carrying a torch and a head torch? Simple reason.
You don't just want to rely on one.
That is one of the parts, because you know, if one fails the other one, you got the backup. But the reason being is I can free my hands up with light. I can't hold a torch if I need to work with two hands in the dark to stem the blood or whatever the case may be, or whatever, or even cooking my dinner. I have a head torch. My two hands are free. Now, guys, get into some serious piece of gear. So I have a snood as well. Okay, one of these.
Also known as a neck scarf, a face shield, whatever that might be. Yeah, a lot of people use them for fishing. That's where I bought my first ones, just to keep the sun off when you're fishing and that.
Yeah, they're very handy. Again, like a bandana, multitude of uses.
Yep.
So, guys, this is a GPS navigation system.
A lot smaller than my one.
Yeah, it's a. I'm not going to give away. I'm not going to promote the name, but anyway, they're out there. They're readily available. You can pretty much, I'm going to teach you very quickly, 2 seconds, how to use it. Simple.
You can see the name anyway.
Yeah, yeah. If you zoom in, you can see it, guys. So, okay, I've just pulled up to the trailhead. Nearly said the name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a Garmin. Who cares? Pull the Garmin.
Mate, I got no problems mentioning names if you support the product, and that's fine by me.
Exactly. So, E-Trax Garmin. Okay, pull it out. Pull up waymarks. Okay, so drop a pin. I've just dropped the pin, a breadcrumb, digital breadcrumb from the trailhead. Off I go in the bush. Don't know where the hell I'm going, but I'm going. But I know one thing. It's going to bring me back home, because you're leaving a digital breadcrumb trail all the way back to where you started. Very, very essential piece of equipment. Now, if the shit hits the proverbial fan and you're in a lot of trouble, this is what you reach for. This is a very, very important piece of equipment to have in the bush. They're not cheap. If you can afford one,
but definitely something.
Buy one.
And this is definitely something that I'm looking to get. GME, if you guys want to come to the party, I'd love your one. I'm a big fan of GME products.
So the lanyard isn't just a lanyard for hanging around your neck. The lanyard tells you how to actually activate the system and how to operate it. You've also detachable, and you got a whistle built into it. So therefore you've got the audio distress, and now you've got the digital distress. So what you do is, in the event of a life-threatening situation, and that's when you use this, guys.
This is not to be used just because you've hurt yourself, but you can still get up and walk.
Exactly.
This is something to be used if you're going to die, if there's no other option.
Life-threatening situation. So, it's called a PLB, Personal Location Beacon. And how this works is, I'm not going to activate it obviously, but I'm going to show you roughly. So, I'm in trouble. I know I can't walk. I've been bitten by a snake. Time is really not on my side right now. I need to get out of here. I'm 30 miles away from civilization in the middle of the bush somewhere. Shit, what am I going to do? I don't want to die out here. Oh yeah, I've got this. So,
even 2 miles. The simple fact is you can't walk after you've been bitten by a snake or something. Or if you've had a serious break or something like that. You can't walk. This is where it comes in.
Yeah. So you have a little aerial on it. Okay? So that tracks the satellites above you and pretty much sends out a distress call when I activate it. So I'm not sure how well you can see. But pretty much
I should be able to see pretty clear.
there is a little button on it that says emergency use only, and it shows you it's a little red door. You lift that red door up and you push it, and that's it activated. There is a test, you can do a test on it, and that's it showing me now that it's testing. So it's now testing, okay? It's going through the motions as if it was going to go off. Obviously it's not going to. So yeah, there's a 10-year battery life in it. You can buy replacement batteries for it. I think they're about 60 or 70 bucks, which is not a lot of money.
Yep.
When you're talking about seriously saving your life.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've activated it, you set it down like so, and you wait. Now what that does, that goes to a trauma centre, emergency trauma centre, which is obviously controlled by all the emergency services. When you get a PLB, you register it, and this personal location beacon is registered to me only. So if I were to kick that off, they're going to go, all right, there's his location. We know where you are. You're in the bush. There's no road access. You need an evac.
Yep.
They're going to send an evac in and pull me out. This is accurate to within 3 meters. So pretty much if they've landed over there, I've got the whistle. I can get them to where exactly I am in 3 meters. So they're 3 meters away. Major piece of equipment, guys. Well, look, that wraps my sort of bush first aid and emergency lifeline.
And the PLB is definitely something that I need to get myself. As you guys have seen in the Mooney Beach Trail, the first one of there, I rolled my ankle, tore ligaments and that in my ankle. Now, I was able to walk out of that, so I wouldn't want to use a PLB in that situation. But if it was a much worse situation where I'd broken my leg or something like that and I couldn't walk, then that's where this thing would have come in really handy. Or say, for example, the Abbots Falls walking trail. It's an 8-kilometre walking track in the middle of nowhere, and I'm down at the falls or something like that in the middle of the week and I have an issue. Chances of somebody else coming through and finding me are going to be very slim. And if I'm in that situation where I've had a snake bite and I can't walk, or a spider bite, or I've busted my leg or something like that, that's where the PLB would come in extremely handy. And that's part of the reason Jerry and I both are now carrying emergency equipment as well. So if something does happen, we at least give ourselves a better chance of lasting a couple of days to be able to get through and survive. Even if it does take emergency services or whatever a bit of time to get to us, we're still going to be, we're giving ourselves that best chance possible.
The maximum opportunity, absolutely. And guys, just one last thing I would like to say as well, on these two pieces of equipment. They're both satellite orientated. So what I mean by that is your cell phone, your mobile phone, you know yourself, if you're out for a walk, I don't have signal.
Yep.
Well, can you imagine not having signal whenever you most need it?
Exactly. So satellite, you always will.
So these both use Russian and American satellites. GLONASS, which is the Russian, which are a majorly powerful satellite. There's quite a few of them up there, and they're gonna. You never don't have a signal. The only way you won't have a signal is if you're sitting in your car and it's under your ass. For obvious reasons, it needs people to get out there and send it to the sky.
Much like the GPS navigation, much like the GPS navigation systems in your car.
Yeah, that's it.
They're always they should always have the signal.
Yeah.
But I think these things, especially being life saving devices, they'll actually be more reliable and more sensitive than what a GPS navigation unit in your car will.
Yeah.
Especially if you've bought a VMS like I have.
I mean, they're dedicated guys to, saving your life. So therefore, they're specifically tuned to certain satellites that they know that system is always going to break through to.
Yep.
And same with the handheld, this GPS, exact same. They use the exact same satellites. Both of them use the Russian and American satellites and so on. So therefore, your best chance of getting a signal and getting, through your message through to get you out of that situation, it's 99.9%. No doubt about it.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have found this one quite useful. If you're looking to do up a little first aid kit yourself, you've got some great ideas here, or even a little bug out kit like I'm doing with my belt and everything. Some great ideas. Jerry's got some great options. As I said, I'm not showing you through my little bug out bag, but many of the same sort of items with the space blankets and fire starters and compass and torches and spare batteries and things like that. I just don't have the PLB and things like that yet. But yeah, some great options. Great advice there, hopefully for you guys on the first aid kits as well. Remember, as I said, my car one and my hiking one are basically the same, and my plan was to keep them so that I can sort of cover all bases when it comes to my first aid kit in both situations. Eventually I'd like to upgrade the car one a bit more. I definitely want to get a splint for that. Again, thanks to the guys from Survival for throwing me that one at the Sydney 4-Wheel Drive and Adventure Show. And yeah, it's something that I really think that we all need to take very serious out in the bush is our first aid. Like, even sitting back at camp, you can burn yourself, you might cut yourself trying to cut up a bit of wood or something like that. To have the correct first aid there and have the knowledge on how to use it, it's absolutely vital. So
For 100%, for sure.
Alright guys, again, hope you found some great information. Hope we've helped you with that. Alrighty guys, I hope, again, fucking hell. Alrighty guys, again, I hope you've found some useful information out of this video. If you have liked it, please leave a like. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you've got any comments on what we should or shouldn't have in our kits, in particular if you think something else maybe out of the square, like my little salt sachets, that might come in handy for either of us, or for anybody else there looking to do a kit, drop it in the comments and let me know.
Constantly learn, you never stop learning.
That's right. And like the little salt kits, I thought to myself, well, that's actually not a bad idea. I normally keep a lighter on me and a pair of pliers when I'm doing a walk for leeches, but the salt can be there too, and the salt will also sterilise wounds in that as well. So
for sure,
it can be used for a multitude of things. And hey, if you're cooking up something and it's a bit bland, throw a bit on there while you're at it.
You can salt your sausages, guys.
Yeah, that's right. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Take care, peace, and as always, I'll see you on the tracks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.